All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'll try that again. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Wonderful to have you at our first parent meeting for the new school year. I am Mr. Gambino, principal of William Lee College Prep. I'm very excited to have you here. If you do not have an agenda or if you have any questions, please let us know. We've got a lot to cover today, so we'll get started right away. We're also recording this session tonight so that if you have questions or if you missed something, you can go back and watch on our YouTube channel, so feel free to do that as well. We're going to be starting with a data presentation so that we can see and talk about the results of our testing last year from last year's assessments. We want to share with you some of the important results and our next steps as well. And so to do that, I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Wesley Pepper, one of our home office representatives, and so he'll fill us in.
All right. Good evening, everyone. How's everybody feeling tonight? Good. How many of you are starting to feel like, hey, it's that time of year where my students or my children are starting to become students at fortune schools? Right. Because we've got Ashland Williams College Prep and William Lee College Prep here tonight. So if you're feeling good and you know how to say yes, show me.
Oh, yes.
Okay? So, as you know, there should be, that was the part where we use a hand signal instead of our voices, right? And that's part of the structure and what we do at Fortune Schools. So tonight, I'm here to talk to you about last year. Does anybody know why last year is important? Anybody know what happened last year that was different than in years past? Okay. I'm going to tell you. Last year, our students took what's called the Smarter Balance Assessment for the first time with every other student in the state of California. Before that, the year before, we took a practice test that didn't count. But last year was the first year that we took a test that actually counted, that actually gave us data to decide what we need to do at our school to get better. And so last year in about May, if you had a student who was in 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th grade, your student took a test. And some of them probably thought it was pretty hard. Some of them thought it might have been a little bit easier. And now we have some data to kind of show what happened. And so I want to start to talk about this just by pointing out that the state of California, my slides are not looking right.
Turn the lights on.
No, it's too big for some reason. That's interesting. We are going to exit. Okay. So I want to start just by explaining that the state of California looks at last year as a baseline, which means it is going to be the point at which we measure progress for the rest of the time we take this test. It's the only assessment that we'll take that doesn't have an impact on us as a school. How many of you remember the API? Little bit maybe? Or the CST? Okay, we're getting a little closer. So when we take standardized testing, we take the test because it's a report card for our school. It says, how did we do this year and what we were trying to implement? And the state of California implemented the Smarter Balance Assessment across the state for the first time, and they said, well, we expect the scores to be different. And the reason we expect the scores to be different is because we are on a whole new set of standards. And the new standards are called the Common Core State Standards. And the state of California adopted those Common Core Standards. And we're one of, I believe it's 42 states now that have adopted the Common Core Standards that are using it so we can see not only how our students do compared to other students in the state of California, but also how they do compared to other students in the United States, in those 42 states. Here's the thing, though. The new standards are asking for a new level of mastery. They're asking students to do things that are harder than they've ever asked students to do. And so we know going in that one of the things we need to be is patient. And I didn't make this slide. This is not part of my presentation. I borrowed this slide from the state of California. This is what they sent us. They said, this year is just a starting point. Parents, teachers, and schools should see these results as a baseline, as a starting point. And that's exactly how we're treating it. We're treating it as a basic. We had to learn a little bit about ourselves before we could make decisions about what we were going to do. And last year gave us a golden opportunity to make decisions about what we're going to do. So tonight I'm going to show you two things. One, I'm going to show you the results. And as I show you the results, I'm going to refer you back to this slide that says it's okay to be patient. Okay? I'm also going to show you not only the results, where we have some really good things happening, we also have some areas that we need to work on. I'm going to show you what we're going to do to get better. And really, that's what we always do at Fortune School. That's what we do in our organization. We are all about getting better. We have what's called a growth mindset. So we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight too. So when you look at the scores, you are going to be getting a letter in the mail from us fairly soon that actually gives your student score. So if you're a 3rd through 7th grade student's parent, you're going to be getting a score that says how your student did last year. There are 4 achievement levels. They are standard not met, standard nearly met, standard met, and standard exceeded. What that means to you is this is the line that you're looking at. We used to say proficient or not proficient, right? We used to say far below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced. So now, you were looking for before was either proficient or advanced. Now what we're looking for is standard met or standard exceeded. That's where the cutoff is right now. Now, this year our numbers are not completely where we want them to be all the time. However, does anybody know the mission of Fortune Schools? Mr. Gambino?
Our mission is to close the achievement gap for African American students, and that every child will have a chance to graduate college and go to their dream job.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so one of the things we always point out is that if you look at our schools look much different than a traditional school. There's a very specific reason for that. We're here to make sure that we can close the achievement gap. So you'll see that the vast majority of our students are African American, are Latino, are students who are learning the English language. And so our numbers, when we talk about comparing ourselves, we not only compare ourselves to other schools, but we also want to talk about the achievement gap. So I'm going to show you numbers that show that today. Okay? So the very first thing I want you to see is where we were in English language arts. In English language arts, what you're looking at right now is a ranking of the school districts that Fortune Schools, and that includes all of Fortune Schools, so all of our schools, Fortune School, William Lee College Prep, Allen Road College Prep, Ephraim Williams College Prep. They're all grouped together. The state thinks of us as one school with multiple sites. And so when you look at our schools, you'll see we are comparing to districts that our students come from. Our students come from all over Sacramento. They come from the Elk Grove School District, they come from Sacramento Unified, and they come from the Twin Rivers. If you look at those districts and you compare us to those districts, Fortune School had the 2nd highest achievement rate for all students in English language arts. In math, again, you'll see that we had the 2nd highest achievement rate, and this is for African Americans. Remember, the percentage of our students is much higher than you see in other school districts. And I need to rephrase, our ELA was also for African American students. And so as you look across these numbers, what you'll see is our African American students perform better than all except for one district. Our students who are Latino perform better than all except for one district. And then our English language learners perform better than all districts. Okay? We had a higher percentage of students perform well than students in all districts. Same thing for math. Again, what you see across the board are students who are African American perform better than all except for one school. For our students who are Latino, again, it's all except for one school district. Our English language learners, we have a little bit of room to grow in math. But that's okay, because that's why we're here. That's why we're looking at these numbers to start the year. If we dive a little bit deeper, we have some really, really big bright spots in our school. The first thing that we have in our school that's a bright spot is our students perform favorably to local school districts in 3rd grade ELA, ranking number 2 among comparison districts, number 1 for African American students. Reading by the 3rd grade is a key indicator of student success. Our students were better than every other student in the area. Right. Fortune School African American students tend to perform higher in ELA than their African American peers in comparison districts and across the county. Same thing for our English language learners. Same thing for our Latino students. Our English learners perform above ELs in English language arts in Elk Grove, Sac City, and Twin Rivers, and these are where our schools are located. So our comparisons are apples to apples. We have the same students, they come to our schools, and they perform much better than their peers in other schools. Right. To take a closer look at the data, again, you can see at the 3rd grade level, for all students, regardless of their background, we had the 2nd highest percentage of proficient or advanced students. For African American students, we had the 2nd highest of all groups. Excuse me. In ELA, we had the top in 3rd grade for all African American students. For 5th grade, again, you see for African American students, our students were number 1 in the Sacramento area. And then for 6th grade, we were at number 3. We also have some trouble spots. Across the board, our schools need to do better at teaching math. At every grade level, our schools need to do a better job of teaching math. We also had a hot spot in 4th grade ELA, where our students need to do better. And where we need to do better in making sure that our students can be successful. Our 5th graders struggled in science, and they were outperformed by most comparison school districts. Looking at those numbers more closely, again, you can see across the board, our overall numbers for math are lower than all except for one district in Sacramento. For 4th grade ELA, again, this was a spot where we know we can improve. We were the 6th ranked school for all students. For African American students, we were the 9th ranked. So again, this is an area of improvement for us. And we've noted that area of improvement. And finally, you'll see that our 5th grade proficiency rates for science, we definitely need to improve in that area. So what does that tell us? That tells us that we need to work and make decisions at a school level, at an organization level, to help improve what we're doing to make sure our students match to these standards. And so, as a parent, the first question I ask is, well, what are we doing? And I have to tell you, we've made an incredible investment in your students to make sure that your students are going to be given every opportunity to be successful. That our teachers are going to be the best prepared, the best trained, and have the best resources to help students get where they need to be. So let's start with ELA and literacy. This year, we made the shift from our old curriculum, which was based on the old content standards, and last year we still had the old curriculum, which was based on the content standards that were developed in 1997. And they were aligned to the CST, which is the test that we used to take. And our teachers worked really hard to adapt that to the Common Core standards, but the curriculum just wasn't built for it. So now we've purchased a new curriculum that's aligned to the Common Core standards. which means it includes more rigorous work. It focuses on having differentiated materials, which means if you have a student who's advanced, there's materials in the curriculum that are for your student. If you have a student who's right on grade level, there's materials in the curriculum to help them become advanced. If you have a student who is a little bit below grade level, or even a lot below grade level, there are materials in the curriculum that are designed to help them get to grade level and above grade level by the time it's time to be assessed. We also have materials that are specifically designed for English language learners. The reason we picked this curriculum is because all of these materials are embedded in the same curriculum. We know that things tend to slip through the cracks if we don't have it built into our curriculum. So we've done everything we can to make sure it is entirely embedded in the curriculum so it's easy access for our teachers to use it and for our students to be able to use the curriculum to be successful. In math, it's the same thing. We've adopted a new curriculum that is now aligned to the Common Core state standards. We've adopted a new curriculum that, again, has materials and resources that are available for students that are at every single level, whether they're advanced, whether they're on grade level, whether they're below grade level, whether they're far below grade level. We have support in place to make sure your students are getting exactly what they need to be successful. We have support for English language learners. And it's not just English language learners who are below grade level. It's for English language learners at every level. Again, we know that students can be advanced regardless if they're learning the language. That's not what's holding them back. We have materials that are designed to support students in every way. Are there any questions about that? The next thing that you'll see is we've also invested in professional development. Our professional development department, we have a department that's dedicated specifically to training all of our teachers. So we have 2 master teachers in the curriculum and instruction department. And their goal is to provide support for all teachers. Teachers who are brand new to our system, teachers who have been in our system for a couple years, and teachers who are veterans. Just because you are a brand new teacher doesn't mean that you can't be successful with the right support. We believe strongly that if we support those teachers, they can grow and become excellent teachers. And they can get the results that they need to get this year. We also believe that just because you do well doesn't mean you don't have more room to grow. And so we've developed a cycle of professional development. And that cycle of professional development starts with collaborative group planning. So every Wednesday, how many of you are still kind of getting used to early release Wednesdays? It's okay, you can tell us. We know it's not easy, right? But one of our pillars is more time. Well, that more time doesn't just apply to your students. It also applies to our teachers who need to be able to plan and get better at their craft so they can do a great job of teaching your students. So every Wednesday, we have early release Wednesdays so our grade levels can collaborate with other people who teach the same grade that they teach, using the same material, talking about best practices. After that, the master teachers, our principals, walk into classrooms and they do observations. And those observations lead to feedback, and they lead to coaching. Does anybody here play a sport? Okay. When you play a sport, do you get better at your sport without having a coach? No. Does anybody here play an instrument? Or dance? Yeah. Do you get better at your instrument when you have a coach?
No.
When you have a second set of ears that can hear and listen and give you feedback? Well, teaching is the same way. One of these statements that we make about teaching is it's an art form. It's also a science. There are specific strategies teachers can use to be successful in the classroom. And if they master those strategies, their classrooms run better and students learn more. And we also see it as an art. where you get better by not only practicing it, but getting constructive feedback on a regular basis. So our teachers receive constructive feedback that leads to coaching. Now you might walk into a classroom at some point, and you might actually see the teacher that you're used to seeing teach your students watching somebody else teach. That's because our master teachers, who are experts in this, might be modeling those best practices that a teacher may need to learn. We also take video. As you can tell, Mr. Gambino has done a serious amount of work in getting us technologically savvy. Well, a big part of that technology is we can actually record video of best practices and then provide professional development around the video. We can also video a teacher and give them an opportunity to see themselves teaching. And that creates a much deeper place to have a conversation about what they're doing and what they can be doing better. And then the cycle starts again. It's a continuous cycle. So it's not just once a year. It's not twice a year. It's almost weekly, depending on the teacher. It's guaranteed to be at least once every 2 weeks. Every teacher sees a master teacher at least once every 2 weeks. And sometimes much more, depending on what they need. One of the reasons that professional development is so important is because we are working to make sure that we're using best practices. And it's not just what we think. Last year, at the end of the school year, we brought in outside consultants from the Sacramento County Office of Education. Now, the Sacramento County Office of Education is known throughout the state for having the best professional development around the Common Core. They're one of 3 county offices that have been recognized as having a deeper understanding of Common Core and a deeper understanding of what it takes for a teacher to do to make sure students are successful in Common Core. If you look back at some of the data from the beginning, the top school district in almost all of them was Elk Grove. And we noticed that. We said, what's Elk Grove doing? What we found out was they're getting regular coaching from the Sacramento County Office of Education. So we asked them to come in. We said, what do you see? And they said, well, your students are great at sitting and listening. There's great structure in all of your classrooms, but your teachers are doing all the work. You go, that sounds about right. Just about every teacher you're going to meet in our program, they like to do the work. They like to do the heavy lifting. But what we heard was, it shouldn't be the teachers doing the heavy lifting. Who should be doing the heavy lifting? The students. And so we said, well, how do we make sure the students are doing the heavy lifting? And what we found was there's a group of strategies that are called ratio strategies. And ratio, if you think about ratio, it means like 50% of one thing or 50% of another, or 25%, 75%. And when SCOE came in and looked at this, they said, it looks like your teachers are doing half of the work or more. And it really should be tilted the other way. So if you think of a teeter-totter, who's doing the heavy lifting, our teachers were about equal to the students. And with the old standards, that worked. I'll take your question in just a second. We want to tilt that to the heavy lifting being done by our students. Can I take your question?
Yes, please. Please tell me what you mean by heavy lifting in terms of giving instruction, receiving instruction,
Yes.
how the children are processing the concept or they're receiving the concept. Do they need more support in understanding the concept?
So that's a great question. And so when we talk about the heavy lifting, we're talking about the cognitive work. So if you think in terms of what is the cognitive work that you do as a student, in ELA, English Language Arts, it's the reading, it's the writing, it's the creating arguments, it's the pulling data to back up your arguments, it's using text to really understand what it is the author's trying to get across, to prove your point. Now, we don't expect students to come in and be able to do that right off the bat, but the goal is to move them towards using those skills sooner. So when we talk about ratio strategies actually do two things. Number one, they increase engagement. So one of the things you probably hear all the time when you walk into a classroom is you hear some call and response. And we say it has to be at 100%. So that means every student has to be engaged. Every student has to actually be willing to participate. So the engagement strategies are so we can teach those skills. We can make sure students are engaged in the work and doing the work. But as the year goes on, the ratio strategies switch from being about engagement and move towards being not just engaged, but also doing the work, using the strategies that the teachers have taught over and over and over again. And I have an example for you. So this is one of our teachers in our program showing ratio strategies. I'm going to write this down. I don't have any sounds. Is there a speaker on there? Sorry about that. You want to make sure you can hear it.
If you are person A, stand up, please.
Okay. So what you're seeing now, this is
You can help
actually
each.
in the first week of school. This is a teacher who's using ratio strategies in the very first week of school. This is about day 4 and day 5. And what you're going to see are engagement strategies. These are engagement strategies to make sure students are engaged in the work. We started with what's called 100%, meaning every student participates in every part. And teachers wait until they get 100%. Now, they don't just wait stoically. They start with that. But then they use other strategies that we'll talk about a little bit more in a second.
Shoulder, finish up. Eyes on me. That one is strong. Set. Oh, yeah! If you are person A, stand up, please. Person A, do you talk first or do you talk second? First. Slant. Person A. Person B, stand up, please. Person B, do you start talking before Mrs. Wrong class? No.
Track me. Track you. Right. So I heard some conversations, and I'm going to call on a few people, and I told them already that I was going to call on them, so they knew how this comment. Unit. What does a leader sound like? They stand up and say track me.
Track me.
Track you. Say to your audience. Harrison.
Okay. So you saw 2 of the ratio strategies that we teach. You saw call and response, where a teacher gives a cue and the whole class responds. You also saw cold call, where a teacher doesn't ask for a hand, but they actually just call on a student to answer a question. Those are engagement strategies. They're designed to keep students more engaged in what's happening in class. You also saw slant, which has been a part of Fortune School culture for as long as we've been in existence. And slant means sit up straight, listen actively, ask and answer questions, nod, and most importantly, track the speaker. And what we call that is compliance you can see. Now, the first time I heard that, it made me go, I don't like the term compliance. It makes me feel kind of odd inside. But the reality is, if a student's not paying attention and is not engaged in the work, are they learning? No, of course not. And so when we talk about compliance, you can see it's about making sure that students, A, know what they're supposed to do, and B, are showing that they're doing it. And C, teachers can tell if they're doing it without really having to look too hard. Okay? And so when you see these strategies, they lead to success in the classroom. There are a large number of these strategies. So we're increasing ratio to improve student outcomes using some of the strategies you saw there. This isn't something we just created on our own. This is something that is being taught in every teacher preparation program, including our own, throughout the country, and they have proven results at schools that are winning the race, that are closing the achievement gap for all students. And when you look at the strategies, this year we're going to focus on 4. Okay? The 4 that we're going to focus on are turn and talk, everybody writes, cold call, and call and response. Now, like I said before, you saw cold call and call and response already. Those are the ones that are about engagement. These 2 at the top is what you should start to expect to see when you walk into classrooms, particularly turn and talk. The turn and talk means the teacher is going to ask a question and then specifically give students the time to talk to their partner before they ask for an answer. All the time. And when they don't get the right answer, they're going to let them talk about it again. Because one of the key components of being successful in Common Core is learning how to struggle. Struggle through things that are more challenging. Now, that doesn't mean the teacher's not going to scaffold and just going to ask the question again. The teacher will add a scaffold every time they have to ask the question again, with the goal of next time taking that scaffold away, leading to greater understanding, leading to students being able to answer the question sooner, or without it being as challenging. Yes?
Can you give me an example of the scaffolding, adding it? Well, the initial. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so the very first thing I might do, here's an example of turn and talk. So I've just taught you about the 4 ratio strategies. Tell me what one of those ratio strategies is. What?
One of the ratio strategies is going a little fast.
Okay.
However, you have cold call and response.
I just need one. Give me one.
Okay, cold call.
Give me a second one.
Call and response.
Call and response. Give me a third one. Turn and talk. Give me a 4th one. Mr. Gambino.
Typing notes.
The 4th one is everybody writes. So this is the first form of scaffolding. I just reviewed the notes with you again, right?
Okay.
Now, I want you to turn and talk to your partner. Take 10 seconds and talk to your partner about which ones are for engagement. Go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you don't know what this symbol means, look around. I'm sure somebody does. Let's see if we can get everybody on board. I need my students to be my leaders right now, right? Okay, so when my fist goes up, it means we shouldn't be talking anymore. All right, so can you tell me which one of these were for engagement? Yes.
Call and response.
Call and response. What do you notice about call and response? You call, they respond. Is it fun?
Yeah.
Does it have some energy to it?
A lot of energy.
Absolutely. Are we talking about silent, quiet classrooms where students are passively listening and learning? No. Okay? So we continue that scaffolding. Now, if I ask the question, and let's say I asked you, right? And she didn't know the answer, and that's okay, because we all learn from our mistakes, and we all learn from the next time around. But you heard him, what he said, right? So now if I come back to you, which one's about engagement? Call and response.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so a teacher who's using ratio strategies well is constantly giving the work back to students with scaffolding until they don't need the scaffolding anymore. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And my next question is, does this translate or overlay or support math and science? Because those are the really tough ones.
Absolutely.
To support and approach.
So these strategies are universal across our curriculum. We layer these on top of our curriculum. Our curriculum has the material and the resources for science, math, ELA, and even history. But it's the using of these strategies that leads to students being the ones doing the work and accessing the material. That make sense? Yes.
I sat in my daughter's class, and you know what? I saw her use this strategy.
Yes.
The call and response.
Yes.
She had the kids go up to the front and do the work when you eat breakfast, and then you go up to the front and you do it yourself on the whiteboard.
Absolutely.
And all the kids, they actually use what was the answer, and she called them.
And so
it works.
these are strategies that work. They don't work overnight. This isn't a one-day fix. This isn't something that a teacher can say, hey, I learned these strategies last night, and now I'm an all-star teacher. Doesn't work that way. But that's why we have this. Because the easiest thing to fall back into is teaching the way you were taught. Now, I was taught from 1984 to 1997. And in those 13 years that I was in school, I can tell you the number of times I did call and response in a classroom on one hand. In 13 years. And I was horrible at math. Until I got into college. And then things changed a little bit. But we can't have that anymore. Because the students who were like me in class who couldn't sit passively, by the way, have you noticed that I bounce everywhere I go? Have you noticed that I don't stop moving? It made it hard for me to be a student. These strategies would have made it a lot easier for me to be a student. And we know for a fact that they work. That's why we're using them. That's why we do this. I got time for maybe one more question. One more question. And then I'm going to get pulled off like I was doing dance. All right. You guys have a wonderful, yes, last question. That's okay. Please.
Would a copy of the PowerPoint be available for parents and conversation around?
Yes, it certainly will. I'm going to be putting a link to it in our next bulletin so that you can access it at any time on our Google Drive, and so you'll be able to go back and look at it any time.
We will make everything that we're talking about accessible. We have nothing to hide. This works. There's a good way to do it, and we're working toward it. Okay? Have a great night. Thank you so much for your time.
We're not done yet.
You need the projector?
No.
Perfect. Stand close to the mic when you're talking.
Oh, sure. Let me get one of my parent volunteers. Thank you, Mr. Pepper. All right, so as one of our parent volunteers is passing out a few of the flyers that we're going to discuss, we're going to move right into the 6:15, 6:30 segment on the agenda. First and foremost, does everyone have a copy of the agenda? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the next section we're going to talk about is parent volunteer information. And if you notice on there, there's 4 subsections that talks about rewards and acknowledgement. There's 4 tiers. Do you see that? Where it says bronze, 40 hours, silver, 60, gold, 80, platinum, 100. Right under here, parent volunteer information there. Okay, so
some of you may already have a parent hour form in your hand, and on the back of it, there's a cheat sheet. That's what the 4 tiers pertain to, are the parent hours. Now, in the parent handbook that you received either during orientation or shortly after, there's a section in there called Commitment of Excellence that we all sign as parents, agreeing to the 40 hours, okay? So it's not an option. It's required of us as parents. And on the back of that parent hour form are some tips as to how you can earn the 40 hours. These forms, you could either see myself. I'm your parent liaison for both Ephraim Williams and William Lee College Prep. They're also available in the front lobby at both school sites, if in case you run out. But I want you to be aware of the fact that on the back, if you ever have a question or in doubt as to what it is that you could use towards the hours, you could always flip it over and look on the back there. So for example, homework. If you're helping your scholar with homework, that counts for 0.5. Okay? So that's a way to earn hours. If you purchase something like snack for their class and you spend $5 or more, every $5 you spend equates to 1 hour. Okay? So you would put that on there. If you go on a field lesson, if you volunteer time past the 15-minute mark in the classroom, that also counts as time towards your parent hours. So those are just different ways that you could accomplish the 40 hours. Yes?
I remember seeing your documents from Tasha and donated materials that goes towards the hours too. They've already done, so is that already going here?
Yes. So what happens is, for the parent hours, what you want to do is you want to do them monthly. Okay? So for the first month, August is come and go, but if you forgot to turn in your parent hours for August, please do so. But moving forward, you want to make sure that you fill out the top properly. Can I see a copy of one, please? So on the top portion, definitely put in your scholar's name, their grade, their teacher, your name, your home number or cell number, your email address, very important. If you have an email address, please put that there. And then the month. So for example, the one that you received, I put in there September 2015. Okay, and then it goes down 1 all the way to 31. Some months have 30 days, some have 31 days. And then you would, for each day, if you've done homework, if you've donated something to the class, or if you went on a field lesson, or if you purchased something for snack, then you want to be sure that you match that with the date that you have there on the in the table. You also want to be sure that if you purchase something, you attach the receipt. We must have the receipt attached to your parent hour form. Now, as a parent myself, one of the strategies I found helpful was that you don't want to turn it in really until the end of the month. And the reason being is because if you turn it in the beginning and then you do something else later on, then you'll find yourself constantly filling out these parent hour forms. So it's always best to just kind of hold on to it, and at the very end, just turn it in, and turn it in monthly. You don't want to wait till the last minute when it's, field day or a certain activities going on in the school, and then they can't participate because they don't have the parent hours in. Okay? So we want to make sure that we're filling these out timely and that we are turning them in timely. And if you turn them on, if you turn it in once a month, then you'll avoid having to have that happen. Yes.
So then where do you turn them in and where do you
Okay, good question. So in the front of William Lee and Ephraim Williams, there's an inbox, and it's labeled Parent Hour Forms. So you would just place it in there. I ask that parents just kind of turn it over. And then there's also another inbox next to it called the Volunteer Survey Form. So that's where you would turn that in, and that's at both school sites. If you don't feel comfortable doing either, you can always place it on top of my desk. And my desk is located in the front office of William Lee College Prep. So as soon as you walk in and veer to the left, you'll see it there. Feel free to put it on my desk as well. But again, I prefer you to put it in the basket because I do collect that data at a certain time of the month, and then I start to input the data. Okay? So at the very bottom, it says list the activities and number of hours each day. Again, day 1 through 31, have a teacher or staff member sign their initials for verification. Now, I'm a staff member, so I'm okay to sign off on your parent hour form. So don't freak out. So feel free to go ahead and leave that, and then as I'm inputting the data, I can go ahead and sign off for you. And then at the end of the month, tally up your hours. So here's another thing that I found. At the bottom, under day 31, it says total monthly hours. Be sure that you put that in there. Because right under that, say we go into the month of October, it says total hours completed to date. So that means any hours that you've accumulated for August, September, come October, you want to be sure that you're putting in the total hours completed to date. Does that make sense? Yes? No?
Yes.
So if you have 20 hours in August, 20 hours in September, and we're in October, and you're turning in your September form, how many hours total to date should you have?
40.
40, correct, right. So you want to be sure that you put that in there, because as I go to input the data, that's the bottom line that I'm looking at. Okay, and I keep track of the parent hours for all of the parents. Okay, so yes, and then lastly, turn the completed form into the parent hour inbox located at William Lee College Prep front office. And then there's my contact information. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me via cell phone or email. My information is at the bottom there. Okay? And again, on the back, parent hours monthly tally cheat sheet. I went ahead and made a cheat sheet for parents in case you ever have any questions. Just turn it right over. And then if there's something on the cheat sheet that's questionable, or there's something that's not on there that you are wanting to know if you get credit for, feel free to email me or give me a call and we can talk about that. Okay? Any questions before we move on? Yes.
A couple of points. Can you briefly summarize the conditions for students to participate in field trips? I think I may have missed that in my book.
You mean the field lessons, how they're applicable to the parent hours?
I thought I heard you say that you don't want to wait until the last minute.
Right.
So when they're on field, I'm calling them field trips. What do you call them?
Field lessons are
Is it the same?
same, yes, yes.
Okay, a field lesson, and they can't participate.
Well,
Maybe I.
field day. So for example, the last day of school is typically a half day. And that's also the day that we have field day, where we celebrate, and families come, and the scholars get to kind of let their hair down, play, have fun, eat, that kind of thing. Well, what we need from parents is to make sure that these parent hours are turned in before field day, because that is the last day of school. And the agreement that's in the parent handbook that parents have signed, they agreed to fulfilling the 40-hour parent hour obligation. So for you to participate in field day, we want those hours turned in.
Okay, now I'm clear. And my second point is, item number 15 on the back, parent hours monthly tally cheat sheet, item number 15.
Yes.
1-year subscription to the Observer newspaper. What is the significance of having a year's subscription to a periodical? Is that going to be used as a teaching tool for current events in the world around us or our community? Or
Well, the subscription to the Observer, and where's Mr. Gambino? Mr. Gambino, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Observer, there's ties between the Observer and Fortune School of Education, correct?
Yes, yes.
So what she's asking is, how does that relate to
why
the
is
scholar?
why is that significant, or how is that integrated into your cause? I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No, yeah. We work with our partners. Each of our schools has different partners. So William Lee College Prep is tied with the Observer because of William Lee. And so he actually works with us to produce a student newspaper that we use here on not just at William Lee, but for all of our school sites. And then, for example, Ephraim Williams College Prep, they're partnered with Dr. Ephraim Williams, and so they're reaching out as well to help us with donating items for our events, whether it's for our upcoming Harvest Festival. We've partnered with them to host that as well. So we reach out with our partners to work together, and they provide a lot of opportunities for us. for our scholars as well. For example, Career Day last year, we were able to use our partners to help bring people here to talk to the students about different careers they could have as well.
Okay, very good.
Of course.
Thank you, Mr. Gambino.
Question right here.
Yes.
Homework with the kids, 0.5. Is that day, every time you do homework?
Every day,
Yes,
0.5.
every day,
That's
0.5.
2.5 a week.
Yes. Yes.
And the trickiest part is just getting it recorded. That's the hardest part. I mean, there's lots of ways to earn parent hours, but if it's recording them, that's the key step. If you get them recorded and turned in, we have families who finish in the first 2 months. And so it's just something that we really want everyone involved, and because when we see you guys involved with our scholars, we see results that can't be matched.
That's right. Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Gambino. So I'm going to move along from the cheat sheet and the tally sheet to the fingerprinting because it all ties in. So for fingerprinting, I do have some fingerprinting forms that I brought with me, okay, that have our code on there. So how does that apply to volunteering in the classroom? Well, you are allowed to be in the classroom for the first 15 minutes without being fingerprinted, but anything past that, you do need to be fingerprinted because you are around the children, okay? So if you are a parent that likes to volunteer in the classroom and you're planning on staying longer than the 15-minute mark, then you would want to see me if you haven't done so already, and get your fingerprint volunteer form from me. Another reason you'd want to do that is if you wanted to go on a field trip with the scholars, you'd also need to be fingerprinted to do so. Okay, so I do have those available with me. I also have them available at the front lobby at both campuses. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the fingerprinting part. Yes. That's a great question, Mr. Gambino.
Every 2 years, we tie them to TB test. So you get that TB test every 2 years. So we ask for the fingerprints every 2 years as well.
Did everyone hear that? He says the question was, how often do you have to be fingerprinted? And Mr. Gambino's response was every 2 years because we tie it in with the TB test that's good for 2 years. Yes.
So we have to get fingerprints and TB every 2 years?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a list of parents that are already fingerprinted and TB tested? Is
Yes.
there a cross-reference before allowing them into the classroom?
Yes.
We keep a record. So as the fingerprints come in and all the records come in for the results, it's sent to us and we filter through each one to make sure that, okay, this is for this classroom, these scholars, and so that we can make sure we know who's fingerprinted and who's not.
Yeah, so nobody's going to be able to get into the classroom.
No,
Well, you can go in for the
15
first 15 minutes.
As a relative,
but
they're
not
allowed to
past
observe
that.
their child for 15 minutes, but that's for observing. They can't work with the children.
Right.
At least if you want to say after 15 minutes, you have to do it, right?
Has to be fingerprinted, yes.
Yes. And on the volunteer form, it says on there electronically who the results go to, which is our HR director, Mrs. Strong. So they go directly to her, and then she informs us as to what the results are. And then we're allowed to allow that individual to stay past the 15-minute point. Yes.
How's the cost of the tuberculosis test and the fingerprints covered? I know tuberculosis test might be minimal, but I think fingerprints are rather costly.
Well,
$42 for the fingerprints. And
Is that
so,
my cost?
yes, but it also counts as 8 parent hours because of the $5 you spend. Every $5 you spend is a parent hour. So it's also 8 parent hours. And we were also working with to have them come to our site to do a reduced cost. Last year we were able to have them come visit, and based on the number of people we had interested in signing up, they were able to give us a discount. So we're working with them to set a new date for them to come visit so we can get another discount.
Okay. Question. Does it matter where you get fingerprinted at?
Live scan. Any live scan facility is a partner. That's part of the network. It has to be live scan though. There are other fingerprint opportunities, but we need live scan.
When are you going to have the person to come here?
We're still trying to set a date to figure out what'll work best. I mean, we're going to try and tie it to the time when we're going to have everyone here anyway, so that it makes sense.
but in the meantime, there is a live scan place not very far from here, right off of Broadway, Capital Live Scan, and they're pretty reasonable. And so I think their cost is like maybe $44, and the turnaround time is
That $42 is for that fingerprinting itself. So the cost that they charge at the location, do they have a roaming fee of like $10, $15? That's completely separate.
no, that is included in that. So the fee that Mr. Gambino just quoted, and I know that because I had to have it done for my own child. It was, I think I paid about $44, but that included the rolling fee. And you can always go to the website and they'll to look up the live scan facilities, and they will tell you what their rolling fee is respectively to that facility. Yes.
And that's including this rate.
Well, I paid 44. Remember, every location varies.
Okay.
So your best bet is to just go to like Google Live Scan facilities, and then just kind of go through the list that they have.
How much they charge.
Right. Yes.
And if you find a really good deal, let us know.
Yes.
Because we want to share that. Seriously.
I will say for tuberculosis, I went to, I believe it was, I want to say CVS. There's one off of Florin going towards the Greenhaven Pocket area, and I paid maybe $15 for it. And you could wait the few days to go back for them to retest. Right. Yes.
We used to get them at the doctor.
Right. You could do that as well. Yeah, but for those individuals who don't, that's an option. Okay. All right. So, to my right. Yes.
So, is the 8 hours per parent at fingerprint, or is this one?
Yeah, it's a family. It's a family of.
It's a household,
It's viewed by the household. So if you have 4 adults in your household who all get fingerprinted volunteer here, yes, it counts 4 times. And so you're almost done right away because just from fingerprinting. So it's that's what we're saying. There's so many ways to do it. And if you can't get fingerprint, there's lots of ways that you can help. I know that when I was in the classroom, I loved being able to send home some spelling tests or special art projects to help organize with that families could help with on the weekends or at night, so that I wasn't doing it all by myself. So there's lots of different ways to volunteer. It's just that if we're on campus and in the classroom, we have to be fingerprinting.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Campino. Thank you for your question. So moving along, rewards and acknowledgement 4 tiers. This is something new to both William Lee and Ephraim Williams, and I'm really excited about it because I like rewarding our parents. Parents, you sacrifice a lot, and we are very much grateful for that, and I know that your scholars are as well. So this is something new that we are beginning this year, and it's called the Rewards and Acknowledgement Program. So if you notice, 40 hours, which is what we're required to do, is bronze, so you'll receive a Club 40 pin. And silver, 60 hours, you receive a lanyard. Gold, 80 hours, a t-shirt. And then platinum, 100 plus hours, you receive a gift card. I won't say what the gift card is to. That will be a surprise. But you will receive a gift card. And this is in addition to, obviously, the certificates acknowledging that, these parents have dedicated their time and have fulfilled their requirement and went above and beyond for the parent hours. So this is a new program that we are doing this year and moving forward. So that is an incentive to just say thank you. Yes.
I hate fundraising.
We haven't gotten to that part yet, and you're gonna love it when I get to that part. Trust me. I promise you will. So if there are no questions regarding that, it's pretty self-explanatory there. We're going to move along into fundraising, and we're going to talk about Popcorn Palace. And if you notice, you should have a flyer, a Popcorn Palace flyer. One of my parents passed out. Yes, can I use that for just a moment? And if you don't, I have some on the side there. But this is a flyer that will be going home with your scholars tomorrow, along with the brochure and an envelope for your convenience. And this popcorn fundraiser, this is the first fundraiser for both school sites. And this is something to be excited for because the funds that we raise for are for the scholars. This is for their activities. This is for field day. This is for our harvest festivals. Those things cost, right? So we need to be able to pay for those things, and one way we could do that successfully is through fundraising. I will say this, I've tried the Popcorn Palace fundraiser. The quality of the popcorn is amazing. It's absolutely amazing, and it's affordable. And we are doing it from October the 5th to the 23rd, which allows time, some of us start Christmas shopping early. And when you get the brochures tomorrow, you will see that they have gift sets in there, they have the snack bags, they have a variety of quantities of popcorn. And just to give you an idea, one of the flavors of popcorn, this isn't just your cheese popcorn or kettle corn or caramel popcorn. I mean, they do Fruity Pebbles popcorn, cookies and cream popcorn. It's gourmet popcorn. So tomorrow, your scholars will be coming home with the brochure for you to review. If you have any questions once you receive that material, feel free to come to me directly and we can chat about it. But I just kind of wanted to give you a sneak preview because none of the other parents have this yet. So this is just to give you an idea as to what will be happening in the month of October. And our goal is to raise, we haven't put it in the lobby yet, but we will be putting it in the lobby next week. Our goal is to raise anywhere between $7,000 to $10,000. That is the goal that we set, and we can do it. I will say this, the top 3 sellers will receive a gift card. Pizza party with the principal if you sell 10 items or more. Woohoo! So when you see the merchandise and you see the brochure, you're going to go, wow, okay, this is pretty easy. The snack bags alone are like $7. So it's very cost effective, it's reasonable, it's great quality popcorn, and again, you could, send them out as gifts, or we could talk about different creative ways to sell the popcorn as well. But with that said, when your scholar is selling the popcorn, the instructions are that you do not turn the money into the teachers or to the staff members. What you want to do, because there will be an envelope attached, there's like a safe box.
It's the same as our payments for any of our payments, our Dropbox, where we put our payments for lunch or after school. We're going to use our same envelopes for that as well, so that, again, the money goes directly from you into the envelopes, into the cash box, so that it goes through our cash handling procedure so we can make sure everything's streamlined and secure, that there's no lost money or anything like that. And so then we'll process that. You'll get a receipt that says we've got your order, and here's the receipt, and then we'll go from there.
So cash or money orders only. Again, you place the payment in an envelope and directly in the drop box that's located at William Lee's front office. So as you enter the school and veer to the left, there is a drop box right there. Actually, it's right in front of my office there, and that's where you would place the envelope.
And we're working to add one to Ephraim Williams College Prep as well. Yes. That'll be installed so that there will be cash boxes in both locations.
Both locations, yes, yes. And you want to be sure also with the payment